Don't let this baby face fool you. Behind that face is a stone cold killer. This is the case of Christa Pike. Blessings everyone, and welcome to another story time with Kenita, where I tell true crime stories and Bible stories. And today will be a true crime story, and this is the case of Christa Pike. There have been some recent updates to her case, which is why we are going over her case today. Now, Christa was born March 10th of 1976 in West Virginia. Now, her life did get off to a rocky start because her mother was a party girl who was more interested in drinking and drugging than raising her daughter. Her father wanted no part in caring for her, so she was raised by her grandmother for most of her early life. So her life was stable at first, but her grandmother had died when she was 12 years old, so then she had to move and be with her mother, who introduced her to marijuana when she was just a young teenager. And then her life became very troubled. She dropped out of high school, and then she was arrested for shoplifting. That charge led her to a 1-month stint in juvenile detention, and then upon her release, she joined Job Corps, where she could train to be a nurse technician. But of course, instead of focusing on her studies, she focused on boys, namely a boy named Daryl Shipp. And this obsession with Shipp kicked off a chain of events that culminated in the murder of an innocent girl. Now, when you talk about her, you have to, of course, talk about Daryl. And Daryl, like Christa Pike, came from a very less than desirable background. Now, he was raised by a single mother, and he dropped out of high school in 9th grade, went and got involved with known gang members. And at his mother's urging, she told him to join. And so he joined Job Corps, Knoxville, Tennessee Job Corps, where he enrolled in the culinary arts program. Now, these two were a match made in hell, okay? Their love affair developed very quickly. They were both drawn to Satanism and the occult. And this obsession attracted other Job Corps attendees, including a third person. Her name was Shadala Peterson. Now, enter in Colleen Slimmer. She was pretty, she was enthusiastic. She was a native of Jacksonville, Florida. Now, she came to Knoxville Job Corps to study computer technology. Now, she came within 3 months of her arriving at Job Corps. Christa Pike was already jealous of her. Okay, according to Pike, she said, "Oh, Colleen is hitting on my boyfriend, trying to steal him away from me." So at this point, she did not like Colleen Slimmer. And though Slimmer and her friends, they denied that Slimmer even had any romantic interest in Shipp, but Christa Pike's mind had already convinced herself that she had interest in her boyfriend, and she also convinced her boyfriend that they needed to sacrifice her in the name of Satan. Now, on January 11, 1995, Christa Pike had told her friend, Kim Lolio, that she planned to kill Slimmer because she just felt mean that day. Of course, Kim had dismissed it as just talk, but her dismissal would soon turn to regret because the next night, Pike, Shipp, and Peterson, they lured Slimmer out to the woods, and with a promise of some marijuana. So once she got to the woods, Christa Pike and Daryl Shipp viciously attacked her while Peterson, which is Ladala Peterson, had served as the lookout for the pair. Now, for the next half hour, and this is trigger warning, for the next half hour, Slimmer was taunted, beaten, and slashed, and Christa Pike even went so far as to carve a pentagram into her chest. Christa Pike ultimately ended Colleen Slimmer's life by bludgeoning her with a large piece of asphalt, okay? Now, this asphalt fractured Colleen Slimmer's skull, and so when it did that, Christa Pike actually kept a piece of her skull as a souvenir. Now, even though none of her friends or co-conspirators reported her crime to the police, it didn't take long for Colleen Slimmer's body to be recovered. Now, thanks to her bragging about the crime to her fellow Job Corps attendees, even going as far as to show off the piece of Slimmer's skull to some of her friends, police were quickly led to Pike's front door, where they interviewed her on January 15, 1995. Now, within 36 hours of the crime, Christa Pike, Daryl Shipp, and Shadala Peterson were all arrested for their role in the murder of Colleen Slimmer. Now, Daryl Shipp got life in prison, And Shadala Peterson was given 6 years of probation. She was the lookout, but since she turned and she testified against Tadero and Christa Pike, she got the probation. Now, Christa Pike was convicted of capital murder and conspiracy to commit murder after 2.5 hours of jury deliberation. Now, on March 30th, 1996, she was sentenced to death by electrocution for the murder charge. On June 6th of 1996, she was sentenced to 25 years for the conspiracy to commit murder charge. Now, to say she's been a model prisoner, she has not been a model prisoner at all. She was actually charged with an assault in 2001. Correction, it was not 2001. In August of 2004, Christa Pike was convicted of attempted first-degree murder for trying to strangle a fellow inmate, Patricia Jones, with a shoestring. Now, she even called her mother days after the attack and said, and I quote, "I wrapped that shoestring around her and tried to choke the blank life out of her. She was passed out on the ground, mama, twitching, foaming at the mouth. Her eyeballs was bugged out so far, her eyelids were flipped up." So this is the type of person, so it doesn't even look like she's changed at all. In March of 2012, she was involved in an escape plan involving an inmate from New Jersey. So she's had some other attempts. She has not been a model prisoner. So during the time of trial and during the time that she was convicted of her, convicted and she got her sentence of death by electrocution, they had not set an electrocution date or death penalty date at that time. She just got charged with it and she got the death penalty. So just recently, the beginning of October, they went ahead and set a date for her execution. That date is going to be September the 30th of 2026. That's when Colleen Slimmer's family will finally get full justice.